Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Hollywood is making massive cutbacks now. DEI departments, DEI policies, production altogether in the United States is down, especially in the Los Angeles area. A lot of people are leaving the industry. Layoffs are immense. I don't know who got hired over the last few years, but whoever was getting hired, if it was under diversity programs, and a lot of that hiring likely was under those diversity programs, those people are losing their jobs. There were 36,000 people laid off in the Hollywood and media entertainment industry between 2023 and 2024. 15,000 people laid off in 2024. Not as bad as the year before. Still really bad, and they're still really upset about it. And on top of all that, no matter where the production is done, diversity-focused programs didn't make money, didn't get viewers, and are getting canceled. Finally, we're getting a little bit of feedback from Disney executives explaining, the Acolyte, that Star Wars show, was actually canceled because it was really expensive and nobody really actually watched it. And they need people to watch their shows now. It's not enough to get subscribers for their streaming services. A lot of them depend on advertising. No viewers, no advertising. From the AV Club, Hollywood staffers reflect on broken DEI promises. In a new report from Vanity Fair, those inside Hollywood discuss what went wrong with the industry's attempts to improve post-2020. Well, of course, the problem is that if you don't hire based on merit, then you're not giving people a legitimate opportunity. There is an expression, and the expression's meaningful, which is it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah, that is true, but it's assumed that you have a baseline skill set and that you are appropriate for the work that you're doing. And what are we supposed to do about this? From Variety, UCLA diversity report finds white men over-index on most watched streaming shows as lead actors and lead series creators. A couple of years ago, we know what Hollywood would have done about that. They would have completely ignored it. Now they're not ignoring it. And what could you do? Just be really good at what you do, regardless of what your skin color is, or what your gender is, or your sexual preference, because that's not going to get you a job anymore. This Hollywood diversity report supposedly exists to primarily examine the relationship between racial, ethnic, and gender diversity and the bottom line in the entertainment industry. Well, the bottom line is clear. The stuff that people like, the stuff that people actually want to watch, is the stuff that makes money. That is the bottom line. Coming from Cosmic Book News, Star Wars, The Acolyte canceled because no one watched. Disney executive confirms. I mean, if people aren't watching it and you're spending a lot of money making it and you're tying it in with a $4 billion brand that you bought, Star Wars, at some point it's got to stop. And that's why it's stopping now. Anthony Mackie, the new star of Captain America, who is black now, fires back at claims Captain America Brave New World is a disaster. Well, it does have several reshoots, and his defense is, look, there are a lot of reshoots, but that happens with a lot of Marvel movies. Sure, it does, but the thing about this particular Marvel movie is that it's been known to have had numerous reshoots, test screenings, and a lot of negative reaction to those test screenings, and they keep doing reshoots, and they're not getting any better results from the test screenings. They even added a new villain to this thing. How do you add a new villain? You can't just patchwork together whatever it is that you're doing and ultimately have something that is a good, strong, cohesive piece, no matter what the entertainment or the literature is. It just doesn't work that way. You can't throw bits and pieces together. When Marvel was building up momentum and keeping their promise to fans, those movies weren't necessarily all fantastic, but the momentum was with them. The last movie that people saw from Marvel was Deadpool and Wolverine. They liked it. It was on brand. It was what people expected. People expect something bad from this, so they're not going to go see it. They're certainly not going to see it more than once like people did with Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's not going to help their streaming business or their Marvel brand whatsoever. That's partly why Nate Moore had to leave, did a video on this recently. From Cosmic Book News, MCU producer Nate Moore exits Marvel, follows rumors of woke executives getting fired. They were very polite with him about how they did it. They're allowing him to continue to work on when they do Black Panther 3, although he will be working from the sidelines and not be a big decision maker or executive like he was when he was inside Marvel. And it's not all just about skin color. She-Hulk was also stupid. Comic book news. Scoop confirmed Daredevil Born Again was another She-Hulk. Disney has also been pulling its transgender storylines wherever they seem to pop up now. From today, Disney removes transgender storyline from new Pixar show because it's just one episode of a Pixar streaming show, and they aren't even doing more Pixar streaming shows. It's just going to come out. They can't be pushing agendas in their kids' programming, and they even admitted it. And they're still having massive layoffs at the studios, and there's a lot more to come. You can see how upset this guy is. He's got his head in his hands. I don't know if he was actually laid off or if this is just some kind of a stock photo, but he does seem pretty upset. And I think they're trying to get the message across. Things ain't too good. There will be a lot more layoffs in 2025. That's beyond dispute. Coming from avclub.com, Hollywood staffers reflect on broken DEI promises. What did they really think that Hollywood could keep doing? The only way that this kind of generosity can continue, where you give people opportunities to do work that they're not qualified to do based on their skin color, or based on nepotism, or based on their, gender, race, sexual preference, whatever you want to pick out. The only way you can actually do that is if these studios were completely financially viable and they carved out a certain amount of their profitability to do these kinds of things. But the problem is when you give people opportunities, even when you have the money to do it, and you put them into a process, and they all of a sudden, because they're not qualified, not because of their skin color, but if they're not qualified and you make them the weakest link in a chain because they kind of don't know what they're doing, then they're part of destroying the work that's getting produced. That's why Nate Moore had to go. I'm sure Nate Moore had some good ideas here and there. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, even though he did say that he doesn't want to hire people to work on Marvel films or TV shows who actually love the comics and have read the comics and want to see that represented in the media that they create in the future. He did do that. But let's say he had a few good ideas. That's okay. But he didn't focus on things like that. Clearly, he was focusing on trying to push an agenda. What they got out of that was Black Panther. But what they also got out of that was an entire culture of destroying the brand of Marvel. And Black Panther is not something they can fall back on and say, well, at least we have Black Panther, and then everything else doesn't really matter because it's just so financially successful. It was successful. It wasn't that successful. It's almost hard to believe, given the recent spate of removing trans storylines from TV shows and disappearing content starring characters of color, that Hollywood made a very public effort to champion stories from non-white creators less than 5 years ago. The Black Lives Matter movement, of course, began long before the death of George Floyd, but in the immediate aftermath in June 2020, Hollywood studios made a particular push to diversify the stories they told. Many studios invested in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and hired non-white staffers in roles from writer all the way up to executive. How's that going? Not so good. And here's one of the people that was known to have set sort of the tone, not just for Paramount, where she was a literal vice president at Paramount, executive vice president, high-level person at Paramount, helped set the tone for Hollywood and the industry on their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. She's been since thrown out. The new people spending all that money to acquire Paramount and merge themselves into Skydance don't want this kind of baggage. Multiple people in Hollywood, staffers who feel like the DEI ain't what it used to be, complained in a story by Vanity Fair. Aside from the general fact that people in privileged positions, like people who got their job but didn't have the merit to get that job, tend to not give them up willingly, the piece by writer Joy Press points to two big reasons for the sidelining of these initiatives: money and politics. And let's be really clear about this. There would be no money issue or political issue if hiring people that were not qualified just for the heck of it, or to try to paint by numbers, by color, who the executives of a company are going to be, or who the stars of a show are going to be, or who the writers of a show are going to be. If that were possible and it was financially viable to do that, it wouldn't require money to do that. You have to have the money to lose to do something like that. And studios no longer have money to lose. They continue. In the case of money, it's no secret that Hollywood is not the gold mine it may once have been. Even before 2020, streaming was disrupting the revenue streams of traditional film and TV viewing habits. Then came the pandemic, and then a dual writer-actor strike. Quote, across the board, everyone has been suffering. According to Thembi Banks, a director and Emmy nominee for her work on Only Murders in the Building. Quote, but there's that old adage, when white America has a cold, black America has the flu. The piece notes that Warner Brothers Discovery North American Vice President for DEI, Karen Horn, was laid off in 2023 due to restructuring. And that was seen as a symptom of the industry's willingness to give up on ideals when strapped for cash. That wasn't what that was about. I covered that on this channel. Warner Brothers Discovery was early in this process to get rid of people that were not adding to the value of the company. It's hard to have to say. It's not a matter of skin color. It's a matter of merit and quality work and not being a weak link in a chain. What's the strength of a chain? What's the weight of a chain? You can add up all the links in a chain and you'll get the weight if you put that on a scale. If you take the same chain and you take that chain and you try to pull it, that's when you discover which link is the weak link. It's not the biggest link. It's not the smallest link. It's the link that breaks when you pull the chain. And this is part of my study of theory of constraints. Google it if you're interested in learning more about focusing mechanisms and all kinds of management. That's where the chain analogy comes from. And about the politics, the specter of the second Trump administration is giving studios pause, and did even before this November's election. In June 2023, the Supreme Court, for all intents and purposes, ended affirmative action, leaving some in charge wary about their promised initiatives, because they're absolutely all illegal. You are not allowed, even in a private business, to discriminate against people based on their skin color. You just can't do it. Even if you feel like, I really want to do this, or if you have some personal animus or some kind of a personal desire to do it, you don't have a legal right to do it. You can't do it. Quote, I've heard people are being very cautious about potential lawsuits that could arise from perceived quota systems, according to Kristen Marston, a consultant for films like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and The Little Mermaid, who told the magazine, quote, there are even some concerns about people's titles having equity in them, being scared that that's going to be illegal or unethical at this point. Marston also suggests that companies are doing whatever they can to minimize anti-woke backlash, something seen across industries. Of course, there's more to it than that. The article also mentions how many of the DEI consultants hired in or post-2020 came in with suggestions of how to change the task they were hired to do, but their suggestions fell on deaf or unwilling ears. Yeah, because the suggestions were no doubt completely ridiculous. They were already doing things they ought not to have been doing. Putting out shows like The Acolyte, risking their Star Wars brand, trying to push something on people that they never wanted in the first place. Trying to reinvent their brands, which is impossible because once you reinvent something, once you make it mean something else than what it's supposed to mean, than what people expect, then it's no longer a brand. It's a new brand, which people don't like. It's not working. All it does is lose unlimited amounts of money. And it will keep losing money until they stop doing it. And they continue. Another problem is that Hollywood is a business very much run on personal connections. And white people tend to be the most connected with other white people. Well, I guess then it was white people that gave a lot of opportunities to see if this DEI concept would work out. And apparently it didn't. And even though they went ahead and focused on doing diversity-based shows, diversity-based movies, not even really being concerned if they would be, quote, good or not good, just that they were diverse, they still wound up with this. UCLA Diversity Report finds white men over-index on most watched streaming shows as lead actors and series creators. So if you want to make money, then what are you supposed to do? Hire whoever has the merit. If they happen to be white people, then hire those people. Give everybody a chance, but hold them accountable to do a good job. UCLA's Entertainment and Media Research Initiative has unveiled its latest Hollywood Diversity Report, this time focusing on streaming television in 2023, and found that streaming audiences want new offerings, diverse stories, as most watch metrics fall short of capturing the market. Which is to say, they think the market is not what the market is. It's what they think they want it to be, what they're trying to essentially say this is what the market ought to be because we think this. According to the report, streaming audiences have a desire for diverse stories and female viewers are a significant force in regards to total viewership. The study indicated that women over-indexed in regards to 9 of the top 10 shows ranked by both total household minutes viewed and total household ratings. And here's their explanation for why these white-related projects seem to be doing better than the other projects. Quote, focusing on total minutes watched gives an advantage to older shows that have more episodes and seasons on streaming platforms. Current shows, which our research has repeatedly shown to be more diverse, face a disadvantage in some ways from the onset. Quote, inevitably, that just feeds into the legacy of inequity that was built into the industry. Hollywood is laying off tens of thousands of people. 15,000 people in 2024, 36,000 people in 2023, more coming in 2025. They can't even keep business in Hollywood anymore. To film it in Los Angeles, like literally anywhere else but Los Angeles, is where you should film your show or your movie. It doesn't make financial sense because of the incentives in other states in the United States. But really in other countries, you get much more of an advantage, which is why Disney does movie after movie after movie in the UK. And these people are worried about, we have to mix this race with that race for that show. The studios don't have the luxury to just pick races and say, hey, let's make shows around these races. And that doesn't work. People don't watch shows based on race. They watch shows based on what they like. And no matter how obsessed certain people are with trying to change the way things are, they can't. It's always going to be merit. It's always been merit. That's the way it is. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.